The information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking care because of something you heard on this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by guests or hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any affiliated organizations. Reliance on any information provided by this podcast is solely at your own risk. Welcome to the Healthy Image Podcast, where we talk all things health and wellness. Today our guest is a 10-and-a-half-year breast cancer survivor. She is a mom of two, grandma of one, and founder of Peace Love Tote. We have Kim Carew. Welcome, Kim.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you here.
Yes.
The way we found you just by chance, funny story, not funny, but one of our colleagues was out shopping and ran into you, started having a conversation, and she felt very touched by your story, so I'm very thankful to her.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Shout out to Sherry for
Yes.
connecting us.
She was so sweet.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah, we love Sherry. So just to kind of get a little backstory, like I mentioned, you're a 10-and-a-half-year breast cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, you were just Kim.
I was just Kim.
Yeah,
Healthy Kim.
yeah. And so where are you from? You're from San Gabriel Valley, right?
Right. I grew up in Glendora, California, and went to Cal Poly Pomona and Long Beach State. So I stayed local, and I began working in the entertainment industry. I worked for Disney Studios, loved it. And then I decided to stay home with my kids. And while I was home, I went back and got my master's and my teaching credential, and I'm an English teacher.
That's
8th grade.
amazing.
That's awesome.
Oh, 8th grade. That sounds like a tough age to teach.
It kept me up on everything.
I remember me at 8th grade, so.
Yeah, it's busy times. Yes.
Very busy.
Yes.
Very busy.
Yes, I'm also a Long Beach State alumni too. So
Really?
yay. Yeah, Long Beach State.
That's
yeah.
exciting. And so you said for work you were in the entertainment industry, went on and became an English teacher.
Went on, became an English
So
teacher.
are you still working or?
I recently retired in May of this year, and I was at retirement age. I was a teacher for a little over 20 years, and I have
Wow.
a grandson now. And I decided I wanted to put a little bit more time and energy into my foundation. So that's what I've been doing all summer, and it's October, and we are busy. Breast
Yeah.
Cancer Awareness Month.
It's
and
a busy
I'm
month.
enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. So what kind of person were you before your diagnosis? Were you go with the flow, just more structured? What were you like before?
I was an absolutely just normal, on-the-go person all the time. Right before I was diagnosed, my son, who is 30 now, he got a full-ride scholarship to the University of Oregon. He's a football player.
Wow.
And so my husband and I decided we were never going to miss a game in 4 years. So we were leaving through the fall every Friday, coming back on Sunday, and we had a very, very busy life. I was a teacher at the time, so I was busy. My other child is an adult too, so we were traveling a lot and having so much fun.
College football games are fun.
Oh,
They
yes.
are.
Oh, yes.
They sure are.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's like a whole different ball game, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, how fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And what values or life lessons helped you later on in life?
Definitely having breast cancer. It changed my life. And I can't believe I'm even saying this 10 years later. It changed my life for the better. Now I look at it as it was a gift, and it brought me a better purpose in life. So if someone would have told me that when I was diagnosed, I would have said absolutely not. But of course, it's a struggle and it's difficult, but you can get a lot more out of it too. So my son was a freshman in college, and I was diagnosed early in the year, right after the Rose Bowl, and I was in shock. I never had any major health problems, nothing. And I will say this, when I grew up in Glendora, my best friend that I went all through school with, we were dancers, we were song leaders together, went to college and everything. After we graduated from college, she got married and she was very healthy. She was also an athlete, a swimmer. And she started having what she thought was stress issues. And she was breaking out in rashes and everything and couldn't figure out what was wrong. Well, they found out that she had pancreatic cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And that, to be honest, is the first person that I personally knew that had cancer. No history in my family. And so, you know, my dad has 3 sisters and all these things, but cousins, no issues at all. And so to see her go through that, this healthy person that came down with cancer, and then she didn't make it through. She was diagnosed on the late side. But my mom always said this to me, Kim, you were fine until she died, and now you're a hypochondriac. I was a young adult working, you know, had good insurance. I went to the doctor for every little symptom of anything. And it was kind of a joke with all my friends because you're, oh, Kim, you're a hypochondriac, whatever. And my husband, when I married at 27, we've been married for almost 37 years, he used to laugh and say, oh, you're fine, you're a hypochondriac, go to the doctor, have fun. So, but I did that because I saw what she went through, and I never would have expected that. So I got my mammogram every year on pace.
Yeah. You, because I'm kind of a hypochondriac too. I think just being in this field,
Yes.
I used to work in our company's authorizations department. So we used to have to call insurance companies and basically tell them why they should approve this patient to have an MRI or a PET scan or a CAT scan. You know, you think that your doctor orders it so, and you have insurance so you can get it, and it's unfortunately not that easy. So I used to read, you know, be on the phone with the insurance companies and be reading all of these symptoms of why this person needs a brain MRI. And I'm like, wait, I have headaches. Wait, I'm reading these and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I have a brain tumor. Like I always just, and I'm like that to this day. I'm like, my elbow hurts. Oh no, it's like you go to the worst case scenario.
That
It's
is
terrible.
And back in those days, we didn't have the internet. I had this large medical dictionary that was in our family room, and I was constantly looking at it. I had, you know, dog-eared all the pages, and people would actually call me and go, can you look this up? Can you look this up? Because Kim will look it up
Dr.
for us.
Kim.
Dr. Kim.
Yes.
My husband got so tired of it, he threw it away. He said, this is causing you to be sick. You're done. So I was kind of a hypochondriac. But the good part about that is I always went for my physical every year. And when I turned 40, I got my mammogram and did all the things that I was supposed to do. Thank goodness.
Yeah,
now.
you just controlled what you could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And you talked about your diagnosis and what was it like for you. You said it was a complete shock, and I can only imagine, and I am so thankful to you for sharing your journey with us. Tell us what the first few weeks were like emotionally and physically. I think that, you know, these are great insights for our viewers and for our listeners, and including myself too, because it's good to also know what that is like too. I think it's such an important part of understanding the journey that many women face when it comes to these diagnoses.
Exactly. I went for my annual mammogram, and I got a letter in the mail that said that it was normal, see you next year. However, there was an asterisk that said that my breast density was much higher than normal. And it said because of that, my insurance would cover an ultrasound. Well, of course I'm going to go to that ultrasound.
Hypochondriac Kim's
I'm a
getting the
hypochondriac.
ultrasound.
And I was worried about the breast density because, of course, I looked it up and it said that they really couldn't see as much as they needed to. And any lesions in the breasts were white, just like the breast density in the picture. So I had looked it all up, and of course I scheduled it, and I went to it, and I was lying on the table, And of course, I'm watching and looking at the screen, and I noticed that the person doing the ultrasound was clicking different things like a measurement. And I looked on the screen and I saw something rounded, and I said, "Is that a tumor?" She goes, "Could be." I think I had an anxiety attack right there. So she knew how upset I was that she called a radiologist into the room. And the radiologist said, we don't know at this point. It could be a cyst. It could be so many different things. The edges around it are more smooth than usual. So it may not be cancer. And of course, what if it is? And she said, if it is, it's small. It's just under 2 centimeters. So you'd probably just radiate it and you'd be fine. Well, that brought me a little bit of comfort, I will say that. But the next step was getting a biopsy. Going to the biopsy, of course, I have my husband with me, and this doctor was wonderful. They got me in within a week, which was nice, and that whole week, all I did was look it up, and some thoughts were, I think I'm going to be okay, and some were like, am I going to die?
Yeah, what if I'm not?
You go from bad to worse to I'm fine, things like that. But when I was in there, he could see that I was very upset. And I believe when he was doing the biopsy, he knew that it was cancer. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, it was deeper in my breast, so there was no lump on the outside.
So you wouldn't have been able to feel
So
it.
I would not have been able to feel it.
Wow.
It was deeper in. He said, I'm going to do a biopsy, and if it is cancerous, it will most likely in the tube drop to the bottom. And if it floats to the top, it has more fat and probably is not, but it's not 100%. It's just kind of the way it is. So he took it out and it dropped to the bottom.
Wow.
And I think that was more of what hit me like a ton of bricks. That hit me.
That moment, seeing it drop.
That moment. And the nurse that was in there at the time, she looked at me and she kind of gave me a hug and she said, "This is just a bump in the road." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "The tumor is not big. So that is good." So he also said to me, if you would not have had a mammogram, the placement of it would not have shown through for quite a while. It would have had to have gotten a lot bigger. So my thought on that is mammograms are very important. And read it all. Make sure if it says, look at your breast density. And if it's low, make sure you go a step further. Because if I didn't and just went for my mammogram, the next year with the type of cancer I ended up with, I might not have lived.
Wow.
Wow.
And
So-
it's really nice too how technology is always evolving, and we've come a
Yes.
long way. I feel like even
Oh,
in the
yes.
last 10 years, where now there's 3D mammograms.
Exactly.
So we're always
Exactly.
pushing, come in for a 3D mammogram, and it's really beneficial for women with dense breasts, because instead of taking the 2D image like a normal mammogram would, it takes the image, but it takes it in slices. So that way, as they're going through all the white matter, whatever that they're seeing, that, like you said, cancer also shows up as white, then they can go, okay, there's nothing in this slide. They go in deeper. So it's like you can see all of those. But prior to that, yeah, you just, we can't see much. So go for your ultrasound. But I think it's important, like what you said, read the whole report, follow the recommendations, especially if you have dense breasts. It's a lot harder to read it just with a plain mammogram.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you have the recommendation of doing a follow-up for a bilateral ultrasound. I think that is incredibly important for
Yes.
myself after every mammogram, because I also get the 3D mammograms. There's always that footnote. We recommend a bilateral ultrasound because you have dense tissue. And so I'm always on it to follow up and make sure that I get that appointment in. And I'm pretty fortunate. We're lucky where we work, where we have access
Oh,
to some of the best
absolutely.
radiologists here.
Absolutely.
So that is incredible. And your journey, it's so powerful. And I thank you for the courage that you have for sharing it, because I know this is going to help so many women. It's certainly helping me. Thank you for that. What surprised you the most about your journey and learning that you had this diagnosis, along with the treatment process as well?
Well, next I met with an oncologist. And when I met with her, she was very, very picky and telling me every little thing, the different types of cancer, hormone positive, HR2 positive, all these things. She said there are three main kinds of breast cancer. And she said, then there's this other one. I'm not going to go there at this time because it's more rare and it's very aggressive, and the chances of you having it are very slim, but it's called triple negative. So, about a week later, when they got more details of the biopsy, because it appeared to me that they got the biopsy, it's cancer, but then it goes a step further to see what type of cancer. And I got a phone call. I was on a walk with a girlfriend who was trying to keep me positive and everything, and I got a phone call, and she said, I hate to tell you this, but you have triple negative. Well, I had looked them all up, of course, because I'm hypochondriac. Looked them all up, and I did look up that triple negative, and I go, oh, well, the chances of that are slim. But I did have that triple negative breast cancer, which meant that treatment was going to be a little bit different. So the doctor I went through, she set me up for a treatment, and it was some chemotherapy that was very, very tough. It's known as Red Devil, and that is done for triple negative. And of course, I read up on it, and it said how sick people were, and you lose your hair right away. Well, those are all really tough things if your lifestyle is busy and you work full time and you're doing all this. And because the doctor I was going to at that time was not, she was not as informed about that type of cancer because it was rare. So my husband did a little research and found a doctor that was involved in the research for triple negative, and we wanted to get a second opinion, which is always a good idea.
Yes, yes.
And this doctor, we got in a couple weeks later, so I already did one treatment. They wanted to do it right away. I had a lumpectomy, but that was easy. That was almost nothing. But I will say, when they were in the surgery, they checked my first lymph node because triple negative travels very quickly, and it was in the first lymph node.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And so they took out all 18 on the left side because, it travels so fast, we have to be safe. So I have no lymph nodes on the left side, but I am totally fine. But so the surgery wasn't too tough, but I did have all the lymph nodes taken out, and they wanted me to do my treatment right away. So I did it, and after the first one, I got in to see the doctor that was the specialist for a second opinion, and I have to tell you, that was one of the best days of my life. I went to him. He'd looked at all my records, and he was very notable for it and dealt with triple negative all the time. And he came in, talked to me, just looked at me, and I go, am I going to live? He goes, yep, you are. I'm going to save you.
Oh,
That's wonderful.
And that just changed my life. It changed my attitude. Just having somebody positive
Yes.
that said, I'm going to do everything for you. I decided to change doctors and be with that specialist. And he was amazing. Amazing. So I had to go through 8 chemo treatments and 38 radiation treatments, which is the most you can have. What's interesting, though, is now it's late spring and football season starts in late August,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not want to miss a game. So instead of doing my treatments every 3 weeks, I begged, and he got me every 2 weeks as long as I was doing okay.
That's good.
And so I got them done right before the first game. I had 8 treatments, and so the timing was actually very good. I had 8 treatments, and then when I was going through radiation, I was traveling, but that was not hard at all. Radiation was nothing compared to chemotherapy. And what was really good is I started my chemotherapy while I was still in the school year. And I had to decide how I was going to handle this. When you're working with 14-year-olds, I don't know if they would have looked at me differently. So I went to a place in Hollywood where they copy your hair and make wigs.
Wow.
And I got a wig before I lost my hair. And so as soon as, I would brush my hair and I could tell it was coming out, I went and got my head shaved, and I put the wig on. And I remember I sat in my car getting ready to go into school the first day, took a deep breath, and no one said anything to me. They did a great job with the wig.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Now, if I were going through this again, to be honest, I don't know that I would have done the wig. Because now I see people all the time with that, and it's just fine. But this was a personal thing.
Right.
Absolutely, it is.
And I think it was because, I had 192 students each day. So I did, and none of the kids ever said anything. However, right before the end of the school year when I was still doing treatment, and I worked through it. I had it
Wow.
on Thursday. I felt
amazing.
fine on Friday. Saturday and Sunday were my tough days, but Monday morning I was feeling better. So every other week I only missed one day.
Wow.
So, and then a lot of my treatment was during the summer just because of the timing. But I told the kids at the very end, and they were shocked that I was going through this.
Wow.
I guess I tried to stay positive and everything. And so many of these kids had family members that had been through it. And I think they liked hearing about it. I really do think so.
Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
shared a lot with me.
And it's such a great way to connect with them too, that this is something that does happen, and it's okay to discuss and share about it because you're building that connection with them too. And also when they share, their stories of what they're going through with their families, it's all about, that building that community and those bonds. I think they're so strong. You also discussed how you balanced being a mom and work and your treatment, and I think that's amazing that you just figured out a way to move forward, even though it sounds like it was incredibly challenging. I can only imagine how challenging it was, but you got through it, and you did everything you had to do to make it to the other side of that. Where was the turning point for you where you felt that there was hope? There is hope here. Tell us about that.
Well, part of it was meeting my doctor that specialized in triple negative. And this is so funny though. When I was going through chemotherapy, I'm pushing my cart through Target. And I never really looked at the books in Target, but there was one being displayed called The Power of I Am. And I listened to the podcast that's also called The Power of I Am, and it talks about affirmations if you're going through a tough time.
Yes.
And so all day, I am healthy, I am healed, I'm getting stronger every day. And every time I had a negative thought, I go, I'm healthy, I'm healed, I'm getting stronger every day. I used to say that to myself, and I used to post it on my mirror and on the refrigerator and all these places just to remind myself of that. And I read that book 3 times. It did help me get through chemotherapy, I will say that. But I really believe that positivity when you're going through a tough challenge is half the medication for your body.
Yes.
I really believe that we need our doctors. We need these treatments desperately. But your mind is half your medicine. You
Yes.
have to stay positive. And you have to, every time you're thinking negative, go to the positive thought. Both my children were adults. They were very comforting. My husband, He was my wingman. He still says he's my wingman. He went to every appointment with me, every treatment with me. My kids were constantly calling me, Mom, how you feeling today? And just knowing that they were there was great. Was absolutely
That's
great.
wonderful. And it's wonderful to have that kind of support, that level of support. I think it's so critical when you're going through something incredibly challenging like this. And I think, in today's society, also when we're filled with sometimes a lot of noise that is not good for us,
Yeah.
I think having that attitude of positivity and tuning out that noise, it may be negativity, it may be doubt, it may be fear, it may be even despair, depending on, how we're looking at things. But turning that around, because I think, I'm a strong believer that it's a choice. It really is. And as hard as the road can be, I think it really is a choice to stay positive and find a way to get to that place. It is hard. I can't imagine when you have a cancer diagnosis, how challenging it can be, especially with the different treatments and everything that you have to do and everything that you have to balance and juggle. It can be very difficult. But it sounds like you found that way. You found that hope. You found that light. And you were able to also just, move forward. And I admire that completely about you. And it takes a lot to do that. I'm very much in awe.
I think it's very normal to feel scared and sad and whiny and angry and all of
Yes.
these feelings
Yes.
when you get a diagnosis like that. I think it's just really important. I can't remember the name of the book, but I read this book a couple times, and it was talking about how it's human nature to want to be in control of things. We want
Yes.
we want to be in control of everything, and we're just not. And it said that the only thing we have control over is ourselves, is our mind, the
Our
way we think. 'Cause
reaction.
even
Yeah.
we don't even have control over ourselves. I
Yeah.
mean, if you did, you would have never had breast cancer if you had control over yourself. But
Exactly.
this book said, the only thing we have control over is our mindset. That's the
Yes.
only thing we have control over. So if you want to
Absolutely.
take back control, shift your mindset. And that's so hard to do. But instead of being the sad, angry, whiny, and again, all valid feelings, feel that. Be sad, angry, everything that you need to feel. But I think it's really important to turn it around, pick yourself back up, take control back, and just like you said before, and I'm sure at the time you got diagnosed, this was not your mindset, but this was a positive thing that happened to you because how it shifted your whole life.
It did. It did. And what else is interesting too is for me, I didn't know anyone who had had breast cancer. So I didn't have anybody to really talk to about it except nurses and things like that. And that was really, really hard for me. So many things I wasn't expecting. I mean, walking into my first chemo treatment, I was freezing. I had my husband run to Target and get me a blanket. They give you oxygenated water in a styrofoam cup. Oh, I should have brought something. I didn't know I was going to be there for 6 hours. I should have brought something to do, something to read. I wasn't prepared for a lot of things that I got. However, about halfway through my treatment, a friend of mine put me in touch with someone that she knew, and we met for lunch. And believe it or not, she had had triple negative breast cancer
Wow.
5 years prior.
Wow.
The chances of that, oh my gosh, I
Amazing.
don't know, are amazing. I looked at her, and she was on the other side of what I am going through. She looks normal. She's fine. I needed to see that.
Yeah.
And that's something I like to show other people
Yes.
if they don't know anyone.
Yes.
Someone that's been through what you are going through, and here's my life.
Yes. It's almost like this North Star. If I can get to where they are, here's an example, a living proof of maybe I can get there, and I'm going to push my mindset to get to that point. Let me fight this through, because if that person can do it, there's a chance that I can do that too. And that,
Exactly.
I think that fills me with hope when I see those examples of when I'm struggling with something, and then I see another person who's made it on the other side, it gives me a reference point of something to strive through to get to. I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was something that really, really helped me. And the fact that I was able to finish my chemotherapy and not miss a game, that was my challenge. And even the doctor said, you're going on a plane. And this was before COVID, before people were wearing masks and everything. And I said, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I just made sure that I was. And the radiation, I went to work. And then I drove on my way home and got my radiation and everything like that. And the fact that they will do chemo first, radiation is just nothing compared to that. So you're on the way back up. That's definitely the way it is.
Wow. And also, you've shared so much, and I am so appreciative and grateful, that you're sharing so much of your journey with us. How did your perspective on life change after your treatment?
I was more grateful, and today I am more grateful for things that weren't even a big deal before. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I mean, look, I have a car. I'm able to go all these places. I'm just things, I have this home to live in. I have friends, everything. Things that I didn't realize were so important in life.
Is it more of like a gratitude shift?
It's a gratitude shift for sure. And health issues. A little cold, I'm fine. That's nothing, If I can get through cancer, I can get through this. And it changed everything. And also, too, which is kind of funny, and a lot of my family members and friends said this, too, I'm not a hypochondriac anymore, which is so weird.
That's amazing.
And I think it's because my husband always said, that's because you beat the worst thing
Exactly.
to beat. So if you can beat that, you can beat anything, Kim.
Absolutely.
Exactly. No, I'm not really a hypochondriac anymore.
You're just living life.
I'm just living life. And the doctors I worked with, the nurses, were absolutely wonderful. And, some of the best people I met were people while I was sitting and waiting for a treatment. They understood what all of us were going through. We were helping each other. Met a couple friends that way and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I know that this whole journey led up to you doing something to help other people.
Exactly.
So we will talk about that in our part 2 episode. So if you want to hear more about what Kim has done to pay it forward to help those who are experiencing what she went through, tune back in for our part 2.